Okay, today we are gonna talk about the coronavirus and SARS-CoV, the COVID virus, and its treatment in media and in relation to China. First, we're gonna go through some background and some facts, and then the WHO's process of naming the name of the virus, and then how the narrative against China has problems, and then some conclusions and opinions. Okay, first the background and facts about pandemics and viruses. First of all, pandemics have always occurred in human history. It's just a fact, like viruses spread internationally and people get infected and they die. Okay, we can go through a list of examples. The first pandemic virus is the one that's currently active, the coronavirus. It occurred in 2019, and yes, it's a pandemic. The next pandemic virus that occurred was the Influenza A virus. It occurred in 2009. Another human coronavirus occurred in 2002, a pandemic of a coronavirus. Then in 1980, the human immunodeficiency virus, the virus that causes AIDS, started to spread. Then in the Influenza A virus, it's another subtype of the influenza virus, started to spread in 1968. I wonder why they would be separate from each other if isn't it the same virus? Anyway, the cholera pandemic started in 1961. Then another influenza subtype virus started to spread in 1957, and the so-called Spanish flu, which was also an influenza virus, started to spread in 1918 and started a pandemic also. And in 1899, a cholera pandemic started. I mean, I'll put the rest of the pandemic outbreaks of viruses in the video info, but it happens. Pandemics happen regularly in human history, and it just happens. So, I mean, it's a fact that pandemics occur regularly in the world, and once a virus has started to spread, it will spread to very many countries. Like sometimes even like to every country. I mean, like it just happens. It just happens, and like it just happens. That's just a fact. So we mentioned the Spanish flu that was an influenza subtype virus that killed a lot of people. I will put in the video information how many people the so-called Spanish flu killed. But this is in relation to like why the WHO, why my analysis of why not only my analysis, but an analysis of why WHO started to like promote neutral names for this pandemic virus in particular. So anyway, the Spanish flu did not originate in Spain, but because circumstances occurred relating to Spain, people started to call this influenza, this pandemic that caused a lot of people to die, the Spanish flu. And there were no facts about like where this virus originated, where the pandemic originated, but conveniently Spain was blamed. So this call caused xenophobia against Spain and people of Spain, and it became a conspiracy against Spain, that Spain, spreads disease, spreads a pandemic, viruses, the people who die because of Spain, and so on and so on. And even after the facts came out, like it's been established that the influenza that's called the Spanish flu in 1918 came from America. It came from Kansas. Okay, so even after the facts have come out that it's not Spain that is the origin of this pandemic, Spain still has to deal with that it's called the Spanish flu and that Spain is responsible for it, when it's not true. So even like 100 years later, it's still called the Spanish flu, even though like we know now that it's not Spain that had the first occurrence of this pandemic virus. So the problem with calling the COVID-19 virus the Wuhan virus or the Kung flu virus, the Chinese virus, and so on and so forth, is that is that it creates xenophobia against a country and hatred and so on, that with or without facts of the origin of the virus hurts that country. And I would say that the problem with America and American media that influences world media, and especially when Trump was president, is that America is unfortunately a racist country. It was built on the slavery and mass murder of black people from the start, racism from the start. And to spread and propagate the idea of a Chinese virus in American media towards the world, in order to like create hysteria and sensational news and clickbaits and so on, just we know that it creates more racism and more violence. And is that what people want? More racists in America? More violence in America? Like, do we need more of that? Pandemic viruses will always spread like through borders, through continents, everywhere, like generally or often. So even if the virus originated in China, everybody is going to have to deal with this virus at some point. So Labeling the virus, the Chinese virus, is just not necessary. It's not necessary. I mean, like, we don't need more xenophobia, and especially since before the facts were in, there was no need to spread xenophobia and racism and violence against Chinese people, against Asian people, because Asian people often look like Chinese people. That, I mean, maybe after the fact, a virus can be attributed to a country of origin, but that always creates xenophobia and hatred and conspiracies against that country. So, I mean, and the virus, a pandemic will spread everywhere, like, anyway. So, I mean, like, is there a point for more xenophobia, conspiracies, and violence? I mean, no. I don't think so. I think that viruses should be labeled neutrally, because there are going to be a lot of conspiracies about it anyway. And even after the WHO chose to label the virus something neutral, it still didn't stop the escalation of conspiracies and racism and violence, and Trump, instigated more of that. So I mean, like, I don't. I mean, no. Okay, so that's about the WHO's neutral name of a virus, and like why neutral names are preferable. About the nature of pandemic viruses that spread internationally, and blaming a specific country for the virus. A question. Is it possible for one country to stop the spread of a pandemic virus? Historically speaking, is it possible for a country to stop the spread of a virus? To contain it within one country? No. It's generally not. The rule is basically that it's not possible. So, because then it would have happened in history. Countries would have been able to stop the virus from spreading outside of their country, and other countries would have been able to stop the virus from coming into their country. It's not possible. It's not possible. So why would there be this assumption that China can stop a pandemic virus? Like, how strong, or what kind of unknown methods do these journalists or politicians think that China has access to do something that has never been done, to stop a pandemic virus from spreading? I mean, China could be thankful that such a ability or attribution is given to China by assumption, or blaming China that China should have been able to stop it somehow. But no. Pandemic viruses always spread internationally if it's that type of virus. It always does that. And no country can stop it. Like, what is this conspiracy that China should have known better, should have stopped it, should have prevented it, when it's not possible? It's never happened in history that a country stops a virus, a pandemic virus. It doesn't happen. A pandemic virus, if it's of that nature, will spread everywhere. It will spread everywhere where it, can spread. The common influenza is also a pandemic, but now endemic virus. Can a country stop the common influenza from spreading in their country or to another country? Can any country stop the common influenza from coming into their country one season? Is that possible? So to blame China for a pandemic virus spreading is like saying that countries have been able to stop pandemic viruses from spreading before in history, and that it is a choice to prevent a pandemic virus from spreading in a country or not. It has never happened before. It has never happened before. So it is a conspiracy to believe that China could have prevented the pandemic virus from spreading or to another country or not. It's impossible. It's impossible. It is a conspiracy. It is a conspiracy. Pandemic viruses always spread according to the nature of that virus. I mean, people can mask up, vax up, or they cannot do that. I mean, at this point, it's basically up to people. Like, mask up, vax up, or don't. I mean, the virus will spread. Another reason why this why the narrative of China being the blame of the virus that would have spread everywhere anyway, because it's the type of virus that does that, is that there's this constant negative media and news attack against China that we have established by now are often based on nothing or rumors or conspiracies that reinforce each other and basically indoctrinates people who do not realize that they are conspiracies that are based on mostly on rumors or conspiracies, that China is evil, and it creates a confirmation bias that journalists, seek out, and also a confirmation bias in readers and watchers of news that steer people to believe that that the worst option about China is the true option. That China is evil. China did this intentionally. China could have stopped the virus, this pandemic virus, which has never happened before in history. So that all of the aspects of this China narrative when it comes to the coronavirus, I mean, it doesn't. It's like an automatic guilt that is assumed of China. That I mean, for example, it doesn't benefit China to disclose any information at that point, because if China is already assumed to be guilty and evil based on all these conspiracies, then when it actually matters, for example, this pandemic virus, then there is no benefit to China to disclose information, to share information or anything like that at that point anymore, because it's impossible to stop this virus. What is the point of giving information that that won't even that won't even answer all questions, because like who can answer all the questions in a pandemic virus? Like who's to know? No, it's impossible to stop the spread of this virus. So who like what kind of information would be satisfactory? I mean, people have already died. I mean, it's basically a little bit too late. And blame and guilt has already been assigned based on confirmation bias. So so that's a problem. That's a general problem with the constant negative conspiracy-based attack against China. That when it matters, China won't help. China won't, voluntarily help when China has already been assumed to be guilty. Like, but I mean, this virus cannot be stopped. It cannot be stopped because this is a type of pandemic virus that just spreads like it has spread. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be stopped like that. So, so as a conclusion, pandemic viruses, according to the nature, will spread everywhere if it's in their nature, and pandemic viruses have never been stopped by any country throughout the history of humans and pandemic viruses. So blaming China for this is basically there is no point. There's no point to it. The virus could have originated anywhere and it would have spread everywhere anyway. So it's basically problematic narrative to attack China for this. It is a conspiracy to make the assumption and to spread the assumption that China could have stopped it, would have stopped it, when it's not possible to stop this type of virus from spreading. And that's it. And people can mask up and they can vax up at this point. And